Very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to tonight's edition of Primetime News, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Arundhati Mudannaika. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Two power plants in Kalanitissa run out of fuel. Power cuts in many areas. Tense situation as Minister Chamal attempts to resolve issues relating to Mahavalley lands. President reverses move to appoint SLPP Administrative Secretary as Litrogas Chairman. Train services disrupted due to strike by station masters. Cancel the agreement. Trade unions barge into the Trincomalee oil tank farm. Former president visits Ruan Valley Sire with new party organizers. Who benefits from international sovereign bond transactions? SJB raises questions.
Now the stories in detail. Power cuts were imposed in several areas today. Our correspondents reported that some areas had faced power cuts since afternoon.
What is the cause for the power cuts? The Ceylon Electricity Board says power cuts are occurring as two power generating units at the Kalanitissa power plant had run out of diesel. CB spokesperson and additional director Andrew Navamani said this has affected the supply of 300 megawatts to the national power grid. He added that power cuts will be imposed in several areas at night. Two tankers carrying diesel required by power plants have reached the Colombo port. The CEB spokesperson said the central bank should take steps to pay the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation for the imported fuel.
A man who was arrested by the Colombo Crimes Division over the discovery of a hand grenade at the All Saints Church in Borella and was produced in court as a suspect was remanded until the 25th of January. The remand order was made by Colombo Additional Magistrate Rajendra Jayasuriya today. The Colombo Crimes Division informed court that the suspect, a resident of Dematakoda, had maintained contact with the main suspect involved in this incident. The CCS said another 3 suspects were arrested and they are being interrogated based on a detention order.
එදා උදේ 9:52ට පුද්ගලයෙක් දේවස්ථාන භූමියට ඇතුල් වෙනවා.
At 9:52 in the morning on that day, a man carrying a shopping bag was seen limping at the church. He was examining the surroundings. He enters a row of seats at the back. When a Catholic enters the church, they perform the sign of the cross. He does something similar to that, but it's clear that he isn't a Catholic as he did it in the wrong way. He doesn't pray. He moves to the corner of that bench. We can then see him approaching a statue in the corner. We can see him bending and taking out something, presumably from his trousers or pockets. When another person was passing by, this person takes a quick look around and immediately leaves the church. This incident had taken place at around 9:52 a.m. This footage hasn't been examined by the police. The visuals show what exactly happened. We are having a problem as to why the police decided to examine footage only from 3 p.m. Couldn't they have examined the footage from morning? Who brought this and left it here? Instead of doing that, the police have arrested a cleaner who was afraid and imprisoned. There is no attempt to uncover the truth. We can see that instead of finding out the truth, they are doing this to create a story. We reject the conduct of the police. I see this as a conspiracy.
හොයාගෙන යනවට වැඩිය කතන්දරයක් ගොතන්නට කරන වැඩක් හැටියට අපිට පේනවා. නිසා අපි පොලිසියේ මේ ක්‍රියාදාමය සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා. මේක කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් හැටියටයි මම දකින්නේ.
Minister Chamal Rajpaksa visited Hambantota today.
Minister Chamal Rajpaksa visited Hambantota today to resolve issues relating to lands of the Mahavalley Authority. However, he was interrupted by a monk who raised objections at that time. Two parties have claimed ownership for the land that is said to belong to a temple. The chief prelate of the Nigodarama temple in Suryavava was moved away by security personnel amidst the argument. An issue arises when there is no progress for about 5 or 10 years. There are issues relating to Mahaveli lands everywhere. Attention hasn't been paid to these problems. The problems have increased. These problems must be resolved so that the people can be happy. That's what I'm trying to do. Joint trade unions for the fuel, ports and electricity sectors staged a protest in Trincomalee today. They are opposing moves to sell national assets such as the Trincomalee oil tank farm. The protesters entered the upper tank farm despite objections by security officers.
The rulers of our country are begging for money and have made the entire country beggars by allowing this valuable resource to go to ruin. They say they are patriotic. They kiss the ground and beat their chests. We wish to tell everyone who does this to come forward and prevent the destruction caused by this government that is auctioning assets and to protect national resources. These are assets that can generate dollars.
Members of the joint trade unions from the fuel, port and electricity sectors climbed on top of the 75th oil tank and examined the surroundings.
Multinational companies had understood the value of this and are trying to gain control of this for just $400 million by putting down the country's rulers. We must defeat these efforts. They have removed the important components from this tank. No one is there to protect this. If they are forcefully claiming that they have leased this out, then they must protect this as well.
The Station Masters Association decided to go on an unannounced token strike at midnight yesterday, compelling commuters to undertake an unsafe train journey which was supposed to be safe. This was the situation at the Gampa train station this morning. A tense situation was experienced opposite the Kandy train station between commuters and police personnel due to the token strike that is expected to end at midnight today. Passengers were furious when the Colombo Bulletin train journey was cut short in Kandy.
We were left helpless in Kandy. When we reached here, the police were already here. There was absolutely no one working at the railway station. Half an hour after we reached Kandy, a staff member told us to get off the train. Then with the police presence, there was unrest. Then the police called in buses and people were compelled to pay for the bus as well.
මේ බස් වලත් සල්ලි දීලා තමයි යන්න ඕනේ කට්ටියට.
The unannounced token strike, irrespective of the cause, has not only affected the locals but tourists as well.
No, unfortunately not. We think we're going to get the bus instead.
Yes, we went to the rail station but no train today, so we go back to the bus. We want to go to Bentota.
I think it's a strike. We wanted to go to Ella, but now we need to take the bus. So I don't know what's happening. Everything is closed.
The general public who were unaware of the strike were left helpless in the streets as no alternative was available.
I'm at the Colombo Fort railway station. One of the most busiest railway stations in the country is now empty. And all of this is because of an unannounced 24-hour token strike launched by the Station Masters Association. And as you can see, the entire station is empty, and this has severely affected the people of this country, as their plans to visit their hometowns, families and friends during the long weekend has now been disrupted.
හැමදාම බැලුවොත් හැමතැනම ස්ට්‍රයික්. රටක් දුවන්නේ කොහමද මේම? දැන් මොකක්වත් නැහැනේ. කන්නත් නැහැ, බොන්නත් නැහැ, අඳින්නත් නැහැ, ලයිටුත් නැහැ. මොකද්ද කරන්න තියෙන්නේ මහත්තයෝ? මැරෙන්නද කියන්නේ?
අද පහේ ඉඳලා කෝච්චි නැහැ. මේක අසාධාරණයි. මේ වැඩේ. ඇයි මේම කරන්නේ? මේ රටේ පාලන හොඳ නැහැ. බලන්න යන්න දාලා දැන් සැපද
අද ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ඇති වෙලා තියෙන තත්ත්වය අපි හරි සන්තෝෂයෙන් කතා කරන්නේ එන ආඩම්බරේ මොකද අපි මූණ හොදන්නෙත් නැතුව උදේ පාන්දර ගිහිල්ලා දීලා ආවේ මේවට වක් කියන්න ඕන ඕගොල්ලෝ නෙමෙයි දේශපාලඥයෝ නෙමෙයි අපි
Locals as well as overseas travellers were left helpless due to the strike at the Gaul train station.
මේක ඉන්න හිතන රටක් නෙවෙයි යන්න හිතන රටක් අපට මේකද ක්‍රමවේදය වෙන්න ඕන රටේ එඩිට් කරන්න එපා කෙලිම දාන්න මේ අවශ්‍ය ටික
Many passengers who were at the Hatton train station were forced to spend the night in the station as a result of the strike. Train operations along the coastal belt took place using hand signals by authorities. Why are decisions being made bringing disrepute to Sri Lanka Railways?
We made continuous requests to update the passenger train timetable. Despite these requests, the department had decided to cancel the bookings for long distance and night mail trains. We informed the General Manager and Deputy General of Railways on the matter, but they did not respond properly. We have met all their demands. We have called for recommendations. We have given the necessary instructions as well.
The government is preparing to import fertilizer again from China's Qingdao Sewing Biotech Group. A stock of fertilizer sent by the Chinese fertilizer company had been rejected recently.
Sri Lanka has recently rejected a fertilizer consignment from China's Qingdao Sewing Biotech company. The stock was rejected after tests showed the presence of harmful bacteria. However, the government had eventually paid $6.9 million to the company. Now, the Sri Lanka Standards Institute is preparing new standards for special types of fertilizer. Its Senior Deputy Director K.A. Anil said initial work is being done to prepare the new standards. Agriculture Minister Mahindanand Alutkamage said the ministry had requested the SLSI to prepare new standards for liquid biofertilizer and solid fertilizers. He noted that the previous standards did not allow the importation of fertilizer containing bacteria. The minister said that authorities would not allow fertilizer containing harmful bacteria into the country. The Sri Lanka Standards Institute says it would not set standards targeting Chinese fertilizer. Senior Deputy Director K.A. Anil, who is attached to the SLSI's agriculture section, says that the new standards will cover compound fertilizer. He said the standards will apply to the fertilizer from the Chinese company if it confirms that the organic fertilizer has special compounds.
Although some living organisms may not be harmful to a country, the impact can be detrimental if the microorganisms are living in alien conditions. We can't predict the damages that they may cause. According to the SGS lab report from Singapore, the fertilizer stock doesn't contain harmful microorganisms and that it is free from animal or human pathogens. But as microbiologists, we have our concerns over the mechanism that they have used to conduct the tests.
Metsiri Vijay Gunawardana Wardana, the chairman of the Colombo Commercial Fertilizers Limited, says the Agriculture Ministry has appointed a special committee to implement the agreements reached with the Chinese fertilizer company. He noted that Sri Lanka hopes to import fertilizer in February or March from the Chinese company, from which the initial fertilizer stock was rejected.
Fighting against chemical fertilizer isn't an easy task. This is the second biggest mafia in this world. It is only second to the actual mafia and drugs. The chemical fertilizer business is worth 100 billion in Sri Lanka. We can turn this around if we spend 1 out of 100 billion on the fertilizer problem. University professors, political parties and television channels have been paid, and they have created a group of people called farmers in an effort to reverse the good decision that we made. This is hurting the farmers. They are severely affected. Production can decrease as a result of these moves, but this can be successful after a few seasons.
Farmers and members of the All Ceylon Farmers Federation staged a protest at the Dambulla town today. The farmers had staged the protest demanding a solution to the fertilizer crisis and also seeking compensation for their lost harvests. The movement of vehicles along the Jaffna Kandy main road was affected for about an hour due to the protest.
The President and Mahindananda, who came to power promising harvests in barren lands, should do that now. They must pay compensation for the losses we faced. We need fertilizer for the Yala season. We need fertilizer subsidies as well. The government must pay compensation to farmers for the losses they have faced. They must pay more than 100,000 rupees for an acre. The Yala season will begin in a month. We are demanding authorities to give us fertilizer of proper standards, at least for the Yala season. We will continue our struggle until we drag the government by their ears to the streets.
These are the worries of a farmer from the Neliadda village in Madulla. His corn cultivation has been completely destroyed because of insufficient fertilizer. Gas explosions are being reported in several areas amidst a shortage of gas cylinders in the market. The fire brigade had to douse a fire caused by a gas explosion in Velangolavatta, Kurunagala today.
I sensed a leak. A fire broke out as soon as I removed the regulator. We bought the gas cylinder recently. A part of our house was completely damaged. A red sticker was pasted on the cylinder. We had to stay in queues to buy this gas cylinder.
An explosion involving a gas cylinder that had passed standard tests had occurred at a house near the Rendapola junction in Dodangoda, Kaluthara. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa visited the Litro gas terminal in Keravalapitia today. The President's media division said the demand for Litro gas cylinders can be met in the coming days. The President visited the gas storage tank premises and the filling yard and met with the staff of the company. The directors of Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation, which is the parent company of Litrogas Lanka Limited, had decided to appoint a new chairman to the gas company. They had decided to appoint the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana's Administrative Secretary Renuka Pereira as the new chairman of Litrogas Lanka Limited. The Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation falls under the purview of Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa. However, it was later reported that the President had cancelled the proposed appointment.
It's been only 6 months since this chairman was appointed. As employees, we requested the President to give some time for the current chairman to continue his work. We were later informed that the President has decided to retain the current chairman.
A full-day symposium for Middle grade officers of the armed forces conceptualized by the Office of the Chief of Defence Staff was held in Colombo today. The theme of the event was military leadership in the contemporary world, evolving from a warrior to a friend in need.
The Armed Forces Middle Grade Officers Leadership Symposium, designed to develop and exhibit characters with a combination of leadership traits and values and attributes that enable an officer to see what to do, decide to do and influence others to follow in order to be competent with knowledge and skills while efficiently accomplishing the entrusted mission as a leader, was attended by 300 plus middle grade officers of the Army, Navy and Air Force.
The Office of the Chief of Defence Staff initiated this leadership symposium intending to create an interactive learning experience for the Triforce's middle grade officers on military leadership in the contemporary world in order to transform military leadership to effectively manage contemporary national requirements that would multiply overall proficiency in their discharge of their duties.
As far as a professional military officer is concerned, integrity is considered as the primary element of his or her leadership traits and the hallmark of his or her character. The leaders with integrity do not suffer from duplicity or hypocrisy. An officer in the modern era could professionally survive many different types of failures in his or her military career, but they could not survive a failure of integrity.
This symposium also aims to pave the way for an interactive learning experience on areas of military leadership in the contemporary world with the vision of transforming military leadership to effectively manage contemporary national requirements, a task that is of paramount importance to tactical commanders in discharging their duties.
Is a certain entity preparing to earn usual profits by repaying a $500 million international sovereign bond? The Samagi Jana Balawegya and the Frontline Socialist Party raised questions in this regard today.
Look at how the international community is reacting to the debt that we have to settle. This is the loan that we have to settle next week. If we consider this $100 bond, it has come up to $96.32 as there is less than a week to make the payment. The central bank governor had said that bonds are being traded on par. That means at $100. It is being traded near $100 as there is a few more days to repay it. But what he says is completely false. This is only one bond. I brought the details for 3 more bonds. Now this bond has to be repaid in June. A bond worth $100 can be bought at $71 now. This is for a bond that is to be repaid in March 2025. A $100 bond can be bought for $50. This is a bond that is to be paid in 2030. A $100 bond can be bought for $48. This may rise up to $70, $80, $90 or $90. The bondholder will anyway earn profits. Investors are also questioning why this is not being restructured. The government is saying that at least $170 million of the $500 million are with Sri Lankans. Who are these Sri Lankans?
Million 170ක් තියෙන ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයෝ ගාව කියලා. ඒක කවුද මේ ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයෝ?
When
we repay an international sovereign bond of $500 million, we can see that these bonds have been resold for $250 million. There is a profit of $100 million in this. The interest rate on these bonds are 6 or 7%. There is another secret over this. If they allow the rupee to float, then it will trade at 240 rupees against the dollar. A person who invests $1 will receive $2.50. This means there is a profit of $1.50. We know that these people have money. It has been exposed in the Panama and Pandora papers. They have money at the Swiss bank. They can exchange this money in the Singaporean market. We are to make a payment on the 17th. We wish to ask the central bank why they didn't purchase from the secondary market. We suspect that a Sri Lankan is involved in the process of converting this in the secondary market. This means the money is circulating among them.
ලංකාවේ කවුරු හෝ සම්බන්ධයි. අපි සැක කරනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ මේ කැරකිලා යන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝගේ අත්වලටම වෙන්න ඕනේ.
Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle, who made an urgent visit to New Delhi, met with the governor of the central bank Ajit Nivard Cabral upon returning to Sri Lanka. The Indian High Commission of Sri Lanka said that India has expressed its strong support to Sri Lanka in the wake of the Reserve Bank of India extending over $900 million over the last week. Accordingly, a currency swap of $400 million has been extended, in addition to $500 million deferred via the Asian Clearing Union, which is an initiative for facilitating payments among member countries for eligible transactions on a multilateral basis.
The state Wesak festival is to be held in Kuragala Sacred Grounds in Balangoda.
A special discussion on the state Wesak festival was chaired by Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa at Temple Trees yesterday. The Prime Minister had instructed to declare Kuragala and Mahianganaya as sacred sites before the state Wesak festival. Attention had been drawn towards organizing the Wesak festival in several areas including Colombo.
Will the Sri Lanka Freedom Party leave the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna? SLPP members say the SLFP should leave the government rather than criticize it.
If former President Sirisena and the other state ministers from the Sri Lanka Freedom Party can't remain in the government, they must leave it immediately and criticize us from the other side. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party isn't required to run the government. As a young politician, I believe that they must resign respectfully before they are chased away. They can build their own political journey. Some MPs who were involved in building the SLPP have not been given positions as they were given to those from other parties.
Former President Maithripala Sirisena, along with all newly appointed organisers of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, visited the Ruanvali Mahasaya this morning and obtained blessings. A religious ceremony seeking blessings and a Kapruk Puja was held. The former president spoke to the media after the religious observances.
Sri Lanka Nidas Pakshe Nava Samvidayakawaru
We obtained blessings for the current activities of our party and for what we hope to organize in the future. We also hope that we as a country will receive the blessings of the Triple Gem and of God, and solutions will be provided to the ongoing problems of the country that are leaving the general public in distress. A conference on food security in Sri Lanka was held under the patronage of former President Maithripala Sirisena. The event was held in Colombo this evening. There are several issues at present. We don't know how to make use of this land. Those who are given the power to do so don't have that knowledge. Several educated people among us believe that they have to recognize what is received from outside. The food for the elite in Colombo come from agricultural activities carried out using the water from the wabers built by the ancient kings. We need a program to transform society. This must be done through a government policy. This can't be solved by making temporary adjustments. We can't provide solutions that are only valid for 5 years. That is not practical. Former President Maithripala Sirisena also spoke after the event.
එහෙම දෙයක් අපි සාකච්ඡා කරලත් නැහැ තාම තීරණය කරලත් නැහැ. කොච්චර කල් කියන්නේ? නෑ එහෙම දෙයක් අපි කතා බහ කරලා නැහැ. එහෙම සාකච්ඡාවුත් වෙලා නැහැ අපි. මට නම් එහෙම කවුරුවත් කියලා නැහැ. එහෙම කවුරුවත් කියලා නැහැ. නිල වශයෙන් කියලාත් නැහැ කවුරුවත්. සාකච්ඡා කරමින් ඉන්නවා ලෝකපාලත් එක්ක මේ වෙද්දී. කවුද? ඔව් අපි ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොඩ්ඩල් පෙරමුණේ පාර්ශ්වයද? හැම පක්ෂෙමයි.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa stressed on the importance of education for children. I promise the children of our country that the first move that will be made when the Samagi Jana Balawegya come to power will be to provide a pair of shoes to all students. Donating a pair of shoes to a child is more of an investment than being considered welfare. I was disappointed after seeing that halls thatched with coconut leaves. I heard that there were classrooms inside that. The teacher's staff room is inside it as well. There is a tragedy in our country. Would the politicians hold their meetings inside a hall like this? Isn't it better to provide classrooms with better facilities for these children instead of developing walking tracks?
මේ වගේ පොල්ලතු ශාලා වෙනුවට පහසුකම් සහිත පන්ති කාමර ශාලා ලබා දී.
The opposition leader made these comments while addressing an event in Chavakacheri.
The Colombo Stock Exchange held a press conference yesterday. The event was held to portray the CSE's performance in 2021.
If you go back to just 2019, we hit a historical low for this period of 700 million rupees of trading a day. That went up to 1.9 billion in 2020, and that has grown to 4.9 billion, which is 160% growth year over year. That has also led to the market capitalization. That means the value of all of the listed securities on the Colombo Stock Exchange rising to a record of 5.5 trillion rupees. And then if you think of it in terms of the market capitalization to GDP, we hit a low of the 20% range in the last few years. And with what has happened over the last year, this has risen back to 36.7% at the end of last year. What have we done for the state and the public? We have generated 7 billion rupees of revenue directly. This is not our corporate income tax, but strictly from the securities trading levy that the government charges on CSE activity. If you add other VAT and income taxes, this goes to about 7.3 billion. And the SEC has also earned through cess fees about over 1.5 billion rupees last year.
Is spearfishing making a comeback into Sri Lanka? Netizens have been raising concerns on social media over the banned practice being illegally promoted for tourism. News First, Mariam Gunvijaya reports.
Spearfishing, the trophy fishing sport of hunting fish underwater using spear guns and diving gear, was practiced in Sri Lanka until 2017. It was banned under the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Act following a particularly concerning event where a humphead wrasse, part of an endangered species, was killed on the southern coast. Spearfishing using scuba gear is banned across the world, including the Pacific Islands, and with good reason. This form of fishing, carried out by divers using pointed objects like spears, is said to attract tourists. However, it comes at a heavy cost to marine life.
Rather than catching something in the open sea, they prefer to catch fish off the reefs, which is, I think, easy for them to do. And in the process, they sometimes remove species that play a pivotal role in the ecosystem. Sometimes they catch the larger fishes, which inadvertently leads to other problems. So this kind of selective catching sometimes diminishes the species in a selective way. That leads to a breakdown in their population in a drastic manner. The ban on spearfishing did a needy thing to the system by allowing people to fish for a living, whereas the selective removal of species was stopped by this timely action.
Although spearfishing was banned in Sri Lanka in 2017, which is almost 5 years ago, a group of divers are now trying to bring back this blood sport that over the years has destroyed a range of unique fish species that inhabit the sea of Sri Lanka. The government ban came amidst mounting threats posed by spearfishing to 15 endemic and endangered marine species. But social media posts circulating nowadays show that spearfishing is taking place again. Those involved claim that they can carry out spearfishing as they have an international license.
If there is spearfishing in the Sri Lankan waters, that is an illegal activity. If you find anyone who is violating this provision in the law, you can complain to the Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Department or to the Coast Guard Department or to the police, all of whom have a certain duty and obligation to protect the coastal resources.
The Sea of Sri Lanka, which is rich in marine life, could face serious issues through spearfishing and similar illegal acts in a backdrop where Indian fishing trawlers are also breaching the maritime boundary and looting the resources in the northern seas.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Primetime News. For the News First team, I'm Arundhati Mudanayaka together with our sign language interpreter Brian De Cruz. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.